Hi everyone, my name is Sumit Mundhada and I'm test automation professional. My topic is cloud native application testing and approaches. Now, before we jump into the strategies and approaches, let's see and understand what is cloud native application and why so many organizations are moving towards the cloud native application. So the cloud native applications are the applications which are generally designed, built, and run using the cloud computing model, which are provided by different cloud platforms such as Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and Amazon Web Services. Generally, cloud native applications are built using microservices architecture. They are distributed in nature and they use containerization from the technologies such as Kubernetes and Docker. Cloud native applications have lots of benefits, such as they are highly scalable in nature, they are dynamic, distributed, they are developed in a very fast pace, and they provide high resiliencies, which means if there is any failure in a production, then they can recover very fast. Now, because of all such great benefit, lots of organizations are moving towards the cloud native application. Now, before deciding the approaches, one need to consider the key focus area for cloud native application. So let's see what are they. The first and the foremost is definitely automation testing. We already discussed that cloud native applications are getting built in a faster space, which means most of the time they are getting built using CI/CD or say DevOps architecture. And in that case, automation testing is surely a great win. Similar to the automation testing, we have to consider the performance testing, which is equally important and critical. We have to consider all the traditional and the modern ways of the performance testing when dealing with the cloud native application. And then we need to have a great balance between the shift left and shift right approaches. Now, the application itself are getting built for high scalability. So such kind of a scenario should also be focused on. Say example, if there is any change in the demand, then at that time, how the systems and the applications are doing upscaling and downscaling without affecting the end user experience has also to be evaluated. And similarly, resiliency is also equally important factor because applications are built for high resiliency. So we need to have those kind of a focus scenario where we need to see if there is any failure into the system, then how fast systems are recovering from it. Now let's see what are the approaches for cloud native application testing. Of course, we need to start from the unit testing and then gradually move towards the integration and end-to-end testing. Whereas the unit testing is the individual isolated component which we can test in a very early stage of SDLC. And if we get a defect there, we can fix that in a very timely manner. It is cost efficient. Then we move towards the integration testing, where we need to do the integration checks between two different component or services. Now, at times, it may become little bit tricky or difficult because you may have a dependencies on the data, systems, environment, services, and so on. So it becomes equally important to prioritize your integration testing and do a risk-based testing. And similarly, when we are moving towards the end-to-end testing, it is equally important to automate your key scenarios in an automated way and put into the build pipeline. If you go to test entire end-to-end scenario, then it may become highly time-consuming activity and it is not going to be a cost efficient. Then, as we know already, the applications are built in microservices architecture. So contract-based testing is surely a great win. Now, what happens in the contract-based testing is you create the contract between the consumer and provider, which are nothing but the input-output defined criteria, and you put them into your build pipeline. Now, what happens if there is any change from either consumer or provider, which is breaching the said contract, then you are getting that defect proactively and you can fix that at that time only. So contract-based testing is surely a great win. Now, similarly, we have to have a performance testing as we already discussed, and all the aspect of the performance testing, say load balancing, latency, benchmarking, monitoring, log analysis, observability, everything has to be considered. Then we also need to consider a very beautiful concept, which is chaos engineering. Now, what happens in the chaos engineering? You inject the failure into the system, of course, in a controlled manner, and then you see how the system is behaving, adapting, and responding to them and recovering from that. So, chaos engineering is a very beautiful concept and very applicable for cloud native application testing. And then, of course, as we already discussed, advanced automation, where we need to have a scalable framework, we need to have parallel execution, continuous test automation, we need to have use of service virtualization, advanced contract-based API testing, and all sort of such things should be part of your automation framework. So these are the approaches while dealing with cloud native application testing. Now let's see what are the things to keep in mind when we are dealing with cloud native application. So the first and foremost is using the balance between the traditional and the modern ways. Now we are dealing with the microservices architecture, so we need to cultivate and bring the modern ways of testing too, and we have to keep the traditional approaches if they are beneficial. Then we need to go for focus and proactive testing approaches. Our goal is to find defect as early as possible and definitely before the production. And then we need to cultivate the mindset of proactive testing rather than the reactive one. Then we need to have the balance between the shift left and shift right. We already discussed. We need to have a context based approach when to do shift left and when to do shift right. And of course, then we need to go for automation testing and risk based testing to save our time and cost. So that's it from my end for cloud native application testing. Keep learning, keep sharing, keep rocking, and thank you.